Good evening and welcome to 5 Minutes With. I finally managed to nail her down, the super busy, award-winning psychologist, Dr. Yasmine Saad. Yasmine, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm so happy to have you on the show. And of course, you were meant to join us a few weeks back when we did the bullying awareness special. And I know we had a few technical problems, but what's amazing is we've now got you here with us tonight, and there are so many people watching that have got 1,000 questions for you. So I've kind of condensed those, and we're going to try and keep them to a few key points, which I know that you're going to be the perfect person to answer. Of course, on the subject of bullying, I know you deal with all different issues as well, but this is something that's very, very, very poignant, I think, and it's something that needs to be addressed. In your opinion, what causes somebody to be a bully?
That's such a good question. So there are several factors. First of all, to be a bully, you want to have witness somebody talking to you in a harsh way. Being a bully, like you have a concept of it's okay to talk in a harsh way. So either you have experienced somebody talking to you in a harsh way, and it doesn't have to be as harsh as bullies are, but in a critical tone. It's just a bully has experienced some criticism and experienced things more intensely potentially. So in order to be a bully, you have to have had that experience and feel like it's okay. It happens for you to do it again. And the second aspect is to be a bully, you have to have tension within. Because what is a bully? A bully is somebody who's really releasing that tension by belittling somebody else. So that's the second.
That's the psychology behind it. And often we think, someone who's a bully, they're really confident, they're, this really tough character, but actually no, from what you're saying, it's somebody that's actually the opposite. Someone whose self-esteem is perhaps really low, that they're inflicting pain onto somebody else to maybe compensate for their own feelings. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to go. The third part, that's exactly what I was going to say, is somebody is using tension, releasing tension for a particular purpose, which is to elevate themselves. So a bully feels like they need to elevate themselves, and the way they do it is by belittling another person. So at the core, a bully is somebody who's not well internally, who's not feeling well, who doesn't have a good self-esteem. And you might not see it because they might be totally showing a strong sense of self, but everybody who shows off in a certain way underneath is because they need to show off. It's because internally they're not at peace with who they are. Otherwise, you don't need to show off, you don't need to elevate.
So interestingly, often as a parent or as a school teacher or professional, you immediately go to look after the one that's being bullied. But actually, the bully probably needs just as much, if not even more, support and guidance in the first instance.
Yes, absolutely. You want to see that the person who bullies is a suffering person. They suffer. It's just you don't show it because they act in such an aggressive way that you think like they're too strong and need to be taken down. But in reality, they are very much sensitive underneath and very not well. So they need the most help.
And it's so hard, I think, especially when you're younger, when you're a child, to understand this. As we get older and as we grow, we remember our school days, and we can see things for what they were. But when you're in it, and when you're a young child or teenager, it's very difficult. What do you think makes someone also a target to a bully? What's the ideal target, do you think?
I think just the idea of being different makes you a target. Unfortunately, like bullies pick up what's different. And usually it's what's different from the bullier. So if, for example, I'll share my own example, as a child, I was always very peaceful, spoke in a melodious voice, and I was often the target of bullying because people were underlying jealous of that calmness. They wanted me to be triggered. They wanted me to be angry. They wanted, because they saw something in me that they didn't have. Thank God at the time I kind of had that wisdom. So I saw through it and I was not that impacted. But this is the dynamic. The dynamic is that person that is being bullied has something. And that is the subject most of the time of envy of the person, or that the person associates with weakness. So those two pieces together is either subject of envy or either subject that the person, associate with weakness. And bullier are used to demolishing weakness, or bullier are used to elevating themselves when they see something of envy. And so those are the two pieces that will make somebody bully.
And it's so sad because you want your children, especially, to feel like they can be unique and be their own person. And then in some ways, I'm torn as a parent because I don't want my child to be a victim of bullying. So it's finding that balance where, like, you obviously, were very lucky that you were very confident so that it didn't affect you. But for a lot of children, teens, even adults, it does affect us. A lot of questions that came into me after the show, from some very confidential sources, and that's what I love about our show, is that people feel that it's approachable and that they can come in and ask questions. And one of the questions was, how can we as parents prevent our child from becoming that bully? There's parents who, oh, my child would never bully, and we don't really know what goes on in the school environment. How as parents can we stop our child from being the bully?
Such a good question. Really, two things, and it goes to stopping your child from being a bully or helping your child not be so affected if they are bullied. And it goes to accepting weaknesses. It goes to the idea that weaknesses are not weaknesses. They are hidden talents. When somebody cannot do something, it's because there is something to be grown internally. Or if somebody is too much a certain way, it's for them to rebalance themselves. So it's about really equipping your child with the tools to deal with vulnerability and having a loving approach to their own vulnerability, because we're all going to be vulnerable. But if you label them, or a child has a perception of weakness, then it's going to be subject to hard criticism. And when aggression comes your way, you're not going to be able to receive it. And when you're going to see in other weakness, you're going to want aggression to come towards that. So the key here is your relationship to weakness. The other piece is your relationship to talent, because I pointed out, the dynamic with being bullied is either you're jealous of something that somebody else has, or you find a weakness. So the key is your relationship to those two aspects. So the more as a parents we can really be loving towards our child when they do not do something right, when they're not so competent at something. At the same time, if we can be so loving towards their talents too. It's an approach to life that is a bit less harsh, less critical, is loving and accepting, and showing your children that everything has a positive purpose and a positive journey, and equipping them with that strong sense of self to be able to deal with negative and positive, because their own positive will trigger negative in others or positive in others, and their own negative will have the same. So how can they build a resiliency to deal with it? So that is really
It's showing, it is such a tough job being a parent, and there is so much to it. But I think you touched on a really special word, and that's love. And really, as parents, we need to show our children love in everything. Even when they've done wrong, to know, like you say, that they can come to you and say, I've done something wrong, so that we can move on from that. And for anyone watching tonight who is going through bullying, whether it be themselves personally, whether it be their child, might even be in the workplace. What advice would you give for anyone watching that is unfortunately a victim of bullying?
I would say try to find your humor, because what is very hard with bullying, either being a bully or receiving that, is you lose the playfulness of life. You become hard and negative and serious, and you spiral very fast. And what can save you is a sense of humor. And so cultivating a playfulness with who you are, with life, and making fun of things is the best way. So, for example, I love this video that was around on Facebook at some point where somebody imitated a bullier, and the bullying was like, oh yeah, you want to know how bad I am so bad, and making fun of oneself so that the aggression doesn't come in when you
And then
have
not getting the reaction that they want.
That's right. That's right. And then it stops because there's nowhere to go. But that playfulness is key for both parties.
Well, there's such an incredible psychology behind it. And, I could carry on asking you loads and loads of questions, but I know time is precious to you. And I'm so grateful that you've come on the show. I know that, you've given us some incredible tips and guidance there. And on behalf of everyone at 5 Minutes With, I can't thank you enough for sharing all that with us. Is there anything you'd like to leave with, if anybody would like to get in touch with you, or is there any general, good websites that you could recommend on the subject in case anyone wanted to check them out?
I mean, there's a lot of resources out there about bullying. I think what I like is my specialty is individualized, tailored treatment, because depending your situation, depending what you're going through, I will orient you towards more direction than another. So the best way is just to reach out. It's easy. I'm happy to jump on a quick phone call to see what you need and help you out. My website is madisonparkpsych.com, very easy. Or you can Google my name, Dr. Yasmine Saad, and you'll find me a bit everywhere. But the idea is to find something that is suited to you. And therefore, I don't like to give general recommendation, because someone might need more playfulness, or somebody might need to work on how to deal with vulnerability. Somebody else might need to deal with aggression. So it's really different. So I cannot give really a general recommendation, but I'm sure that if you reach out, I'll give you something tailored that will be helpful to you.
Thank you so much. And we will be putting all Dr. Saad's links up after the video. So a massive thank you. I know you're in New York. What time is it in New York? You're about 6 hours. What time is it with you?
It's about 11 right now.
Oh, so you haven't even had lunch yet. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you ever so much. And we will be putting all your links to your website up after the interview. And thank you so much to everyone for watching. I hope I've got all your questions answered. And I think just remember that, help is always available. And the most important thing is to show love. Have a good evening, everybody. 5 minutes.